The cases that we are here to announce are deeply disturbing, the allegations hard to imagine, while all sharing one common tie. The 19 victims and 4 men who are being charged with sexually violating them are all members of the Jehovah's Witness organization.
Hello and welcome to episode 1086 of Watchtower Examination. I'm Winston and I've never been a Jehovah's Witness. Hoping you're having a great day and that you are doing well. A quick update on my own health. Getting better, thank God. Even as doctors still have not made a definite diagnosis, so I'm hoping that the next test they prescribe will provide an answer. I'm scheduled for a colonoscopy on January 9. Unfortunately, I continue to be in pain every day, but thanks be to God, it's not as severe as it used to be. I'm confident that the new diet that the naturopathic doctor put me on is slowly making a difference. Here's an unedited before and after depiction of me today versus a month ago. Again, I thank you all for the prayers, the good wishes, and your financial support that keeps the channel going. On another quick note, I need an income to support my health care and special diet, so I decided to become a travel consultant and just got started. By just, I mean just today. I have not gone through the training, but I can tell you to use my website to get great travel deals. For one, I would love to invite you to come to Jamaica for a weekend, even for a weekend, where you can get attractive discounts on some of our best hotels. Would be nice to meet some of you in person as you visit the island and talk about, Watchtower and other things. As I go through and complete my training, I will tell you more. I have another announcement to make soon, but in the meantime, do check out my website for details on flights, car rental, cruises, hotels, and more. See the address on the screen and in the description below. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the words of the following statement are mucho importante, or is it importante mucho? Well, let me get back to the language I speak. They are very important. The cases we're here to announce are deeply disturbing. The allegations hard to imagine. While all sharing one common tie, the 19 victims and 4 men who are being charged with sexually violating them are all members of the Jehovah's Witness organization. I'm careful not to judge a church by the sins of the members because church attendees are human beings prone to sin and wrong. It is especially difficult to blame the church when the act is condemned by the church they attend. If you belong to an organization that condemns stealing and you end up becoming a thief, how can I blame your church? But something about your church must be questioned if multiple members from multiple congregations from multiple countries are consistently being found to be thieves. What would it be about your church, your organization, that seems to produce so many thieves? I have 2 important questions for you. Question number 1. What are the odds that a grand jury in Pennsylvania is looking into allegations of 4 men who sexually assaulted 19 children and all 23 persons belong to one organization? A church that doesn't call itself a church but a society. One claiming to be the only genuine Christian organization in the world. Second question, how odd that this is the organization that makes such a big deal about not being a reproach on God's name, itself being a reproach on the good name of the state of Pennsylvania. The press conference given by the Pennsylvania Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, is making the rounds within the XJW community, thanks to 2 XJWs who brought it to my attention. In the unlikely event you have not seen it yet, I placed a link in the description below. I cannot pretend that I do not want to see the back of this organization because of the evil it brings and the danger it is to millions. So, as you can imagine, apart from the anger I felt as I listened to the accounts of what happened to these 19 children, I was also disappointed because I thought that while the grand jury is looking into charging these men, the governing body will never be held accountable. But something gave me a ray of hope.
This investigation is intensive and laborious, and as I said a moment ago, ongoing.
It does not end with these 4 men. The investigation is ongoing, but things got even more encouraging.
But I will repeat our call to anyone who has suffered abuse. We want you to know that we are here and we are listening. We are urging anyone who has had a similar experience to come forward to tell us your story. We're here to listen and we will act. Your case won't be swept under the rug. Your experience will not go unheard.
And even more encouraging is this. Not only is the AG inviting others to come forward and assuring them they will be listened to, there is also the promise that the AG's office will not cover the cases under the rug. And it became even more encouraging.
Today we have the opportunity to reach out and to publicly ask if anyone has information regarding similar allegations of sexual assault. Please contact our office immediately. We've established a special hotline just for you. That number is 1-888-538-8541. Again, that special hotline we've established just for you is 888-538-8541.
Hallelujah. Did you hear that, affected persons? Now, just in case anyone who was abused many years ago and may think that the statute of limitations may work against you getting justice, please pay attention to what I thought was the most encouraging part of the press conference for me.
And with that, I'll do my best to answer your questions with the understanding, of course, that I'm constrained in what I can speak of due to the nature that this investigation is active and ongoing.
Right now, are there other suspects that you're still investigating, and do you have any reason to believe that nationally this could be a bigger national case with more suspects in other states?
All I can say is that our case is active and ongoing, and I'm obviously constrained today based on what is written in these presentments. And I think as the prosecution begins, more information will be presented as we make our case, which may help address your questions.
The first question is what I wanted to know. Will this be focusing just on the state of Pennsylvania, or will it become a national investigation in the United States of America? The way the question is answered gives me a clue. The AG was constrained by how much information he could provide to the public at this time. But the notion that when the prosecution begins, more information will be provided as they make their case, and such information may help address the question of whether more states and indeed the nation will be investigating these cases. Bear in mind the cooperation they received from other states in this case.
One was arrested in Pennsylvania, one in the state of Georgia, and one in New York State.
So this is already not exclusive to the state of Pennsylvania. The wider the reach, the more persons understand what this organization is doing to victims, the more likely that you, as a victim of too many years ago, can still find justice due to the organization having to pay. This matter of the far-reaching potential brings me to the second and final question the Attorney General accommodated at the press conference.
Go ahead.
I just want to be clear. You said that all 4 of the men charged were Jehovah Witnesses. Is that correct?
They were involved there, yes.
So do you think it's something within that religion itself? I mean, because these men were not from the same area. They were from different counties.
I really can't comment beyond what I've already said and beyond what's in the 4 corners of the presentment.
The journalist asked, do you believe there is something within that religion itself? Noting that these men are not from the same era, but obviously from the same religion. And that is the million-dollar question that must drive the ongoing investigations. And this is where the story began to get all the more encouraging for all persons who are tired of this organization for how it facilitates and makes easy the abuse of children by their very culture, their practices, and their belief system. After watching the press conference video on YouTube, I did a little digging of my own, and this is huge, ladies and gentlemen. This is how the Philadelphia Inquirer started its coverage of the story. Pennsylvania Attorney General charges 4 Jehovah's Witnesses with sexual abuse of 19 children. Charges stem from a grand jury investigation that started after a 2018 inquiry investigation examined how witness leaders punished survivors after they reported abuse or sought help from the police. There are few takeaways from this article so far. 1, this goes back 5 years. 2, this stemmed from an investigation done by the National Enquirer into how the Watchtower leaders punishes survivors after they reported their ordeal or got the police involved. Take note of that. The target of the examination by the Pennsylvania Inquirer was the leadership of the organization and how they treated victims. The point, therefore, is that the grand jury did not just get information on the perpetrators, but also about the governing body and how they instructed that these matters be handled. This is not just speculation or a matter of me putting pieces together, but actually a fact that was uncovered as I looked more into this matter. So, in 2018, the Philadelphia Inquirer looked into the leadership of the organization and how victims are treated. This led to criminal investigations into the Jehovah's Witnesses and a grand jury set up. Come February 8, 2020, some 2 years later, Mark O'Donnell, editor at JW Survey, posted an article at jwwatch.org, which made for a pretty interesting read. I visited the website on October 31, but as of November 11, the site was unfortunately not available. Hopefully it will be back up soon. I have provided a link in the description. It could be back up by the time I'm through editing and uploading this video. Quite fortunately, I copied the article and pasted to a Word document so I could read more comfortably in dark mode, as my dwindling vision is finding it difficult to cope with the white background at the website. Seeing that the JW.Watch website is down, I have uploaded the Word document to Dropbox and will drop the link in the description so you can read it. I do hope and pray that Mark O'Donnell does not mind me giving viewers access to the information while the site is down. At the time I read it, the O'Donnell article at jwwatch.org got under 10,000 views, which in the scheme of things represents a very small number, especially when you consider that some readers no doubt visited the page multiple times. But don't let the small number of views at the website fool you. In 2018, O'Donnell was contacted by a top journalist who learned that he had received, quote, hundreds of pages of child abuse case documents from several Jehovah's Witness congregations, unquote. The result was an article published in The Atlantic on April 5, 2009, which would reach a much larger than 10,000 audience. Note the caption, a secret database of child abuse, so the governing body's secret is out to the general public in the United States and the rest of the world. but remains a secret to the people conditioned to ignore or disbelieve media reports. That will not last forever. Please see the link to the article in the description below. That was 2019. In 2020, the answer to the second question posed to the Pennsylvania Attorney General at the press conference was given for all the world to see, this time by another major news outlet, USA Today. The link to the article is also in the description. It makes for an exciting read. Quote, the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office reportedly is investigating whether the Jehovah's Witnesses repeatedly failed to report child sexual abuse allegations to authorities in what is believed to be the first wide-scale examination by a U.S. law enforcement agency. Follow this, guys. The investigation is not just into members perpetrating crimes. That's what the press conference was about. But we are talking here about investigating the policies of the organization. The article continued. The Attorney General's office told USA Today it cannot confirm or deny the existence of investigations. But Mark O'Donnell, a former Jehovah's Witness who left the religion when he was 46,
these despicable apostates,
said the Pennsylvania Attorney General's office interviewed him last summer at his home in Baltimore. Then he was subpoenaed to testify before a statewide investigating grand jury in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
sobering.
O'Donnell's article revealed it was in August that he was first, note I said first, subpoenaed to appear before the grand jury. It happened again 4 months later. In the first sitting, he provided information on how the organization treats with matters related to child sexual abuse. In the second, documents were the focus. Giving an account of his first appearance before the grand jury, O'Donnell stated, quote, a large whiteboard was placed to my left facing the grand jurors. At the very top, the letters GB were written in large letters and circled. Are you loving it? Like I am loving it, folks? I was surprised that O'Donnell could put so much out in the public sphere because I know that there is a great deal of confidentiality in investigations. Investigators and prosecutors don't like too much information being made available, including to the targets and persons of interest in an investigation. He explained why he was able to reveal what he did. Again, read his article. So, the Office of the Pennsylvania Attorney General is not just investigating the actions of members within the organization, but the organization itself. And don't be discouraged by not hearing anything just now. I'll share with you just one more quote from O'Donnell's article. The state of Pennsylvania is no stranger to the cover-up of abuse within religious organizations. In 2018, the Attorney General's office released the results of a 2-year investigation into the Catholic Church following multiple substantiated reports of child sexual abuse and corresponding cover-ups. And, ladies and gentlemen, the actual link to the grand jury's report from that investigation is available online. It's about the Catholic Church, but it makes for good reading to see the kinds of things they report on, and therefore what is likely to come for the Watchtower organization. See the link in the description. Thanks to Mark O'Donnell. The investigation lasted 2 years. I ran through the grand jury's report briefly while preparing this video and noted the table of contents pointed to recommendations from the grand jury, which included removing the statute of limitations on the offenses so charges could be laid on more perpetrators. And the second recommendation is to create a 2-year window, allowing more lawsuits to be filed. Now, these are only recommendations, but recommendations from a powerful body, a grand jury. Whether they will be implemented, I don't know. But the point is, that was the Catholic Church. Now the Watchtower organization is under scrutiny of a grand jury in the state of Pennsylvania, the very state where they were initially registered. And I'm expecting the impact to be huge, potentially fatal for the organization. When the report of the grand jury is made public, no Watchtower member with a brain in his or her head will be able to claim it is
apostate-driven lies and dishonesties.
For witnesses to be in the dark about all these things, for them to believe the governing body is successful in keeping the organization pure, for them to chastise other religions the way they do, only to come to a rude awakening of what Jehovah's organization is guilty of, is going to be difficult to swallow. But swallow they will have to, for there comes a time when there is not enough sand under which they can bury their heads. The persecution excuse will flop. Jesus said, "Blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Not blessed are ye when men shall truthfully and honestly provide evidence that expose you for your sexual abuse of children." It cannot fly. By advertising the hotline that was set up by the Pennsylvania AG's office for, get this, Jehovah's Witnesses people, members and ex-members of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, to call in and report their abuse, a floodgate was opened for lots more complainants and much more reports to be received. And if the comments on the video of the press conference are anything to go by, the organization is in for massive exposure. The organization has already been exposed in other countries. People talk, for example, about the Australian Royal Commission that investigated multiple institutions. I have seen several comments online pleading for the United States to do likewise. Here it is. This development is significant. This is only one state, and more likely than not, other states are indeed looking into reports, or certainly will. When this breaks in the United States, it will be very hard for most witnesses not to hear the news, and it will be shocking. Bad enough that the persecution excuse will not fly this time around, but witnesses will see very clearly how much of a false prophet the organization is as well. Their hopes are going to be dashed in a big way. What they teach about the last days and the destruction of false religion is neatly captured in the June 15, 2012 article with a cool title.
Jehovah reveals what must shortly take place.
Their false teaching is that all other religions, which they call false religion, will be attacked and suddenly destroyed by the United Nations as moved by God, after which the wild beast will launch an attack on Watchtower and its members, and that Jesus will come and rescue them right before Armageddon.
False religion, however, will not just fade away. The harlot will remain a potent force, attempting to bend kings to her will, until God plants an idea in the hearts of those in power. Soon, Jehovah will cause the political elements of Satan's system, as represented by the United Nations, to attack false religion. They will destroy her influence and devastate her riches. Such an event may have seemed unlikely just decades ago. Today, the harlot teeters on the back of the scarlet-colored beast. Even so, she will not slip slowly from her seat. Her tumble will be sudden and violent. After false religion is destroyed, the wild beast, Satan's earthly political setup, will be goaded into an attack on God's kingdom. Unable to reach into heaven, the kings of the earth will vent their rage on those on earth who support God's kingdom. The result is inevitable. Daniel describes one aspect of the final battle. The wild beast mentioned at Revelation 13:1, its image, and the two-horned wild beast will be destroyed. We are living in the days of the seventh head. No more heads will appear on this beast before it is annihilated. The Anglo-American world power will be the dominant world power when false religion is eradicated.
Bear in mind what Stephen Lett said of the last days in his early update on COVID-19.
So the events unfolding around us are making clearer than ever that we're living in the final part of the last days, undoubtedly the final part of the final part of the last days, shortly before the last day of the last days.
Soon, Jehovah's Witnesses will live to see other religions standing strong, while their religion, that they believe is God's religion, will be crumbling, unlike what the governing body taught them. What excuse will they be able to give now?
Now, when you think of it, we sort of had our explanation backward.
In closing, allow me to say this. The accounts of the 19 children abused, as revealed in that press conference by the AG, are disturbing to the extreme. Something important was said after it was revealed they were all Jehovah's Witnesses.
Most of these defendants used their faith and church to gain access to their victims, to build their trust, and then molested them.
You fully trust in Jehovah, Jesus, and the faithful slave. To a reasonable degree, you also trust all your fellow brothers and sisters.
I'll visit with the older ones, get to know and love them all.
You also trust all your fellow brothers and sisters.
As a result of that membership and the relationship that he and his family enjoyed, his stepdaughter became friends with another girl Ostrander was given unsupervised access to. He exploited that access and sexually assaulted her as well.
Parents and children are taught to trust their brothers, especially others in this organization. Children are taught to visit with older ones, to love and to trust them. The governing body creates the environment of trust and the clinging tightly to one another, and only to one another, that breeds this problem. Then they dish out such cruelty to the victims by subjecting them to all sorts of emotional abuse, from prohibition to report to the authorities, to appearing before judicial committees, to recounting their ordeal before a bunch of untrained men to handle such issues, except of course the training they get from the organization, to sometimes disfellowshipping and shunning. God does not like ugly. It's just a matter of time. The governing body has wielded a lot of power, but I remember this.
This is an abuse of trust, an abuse of power. And I'll remind you that no matter what power you cloak yourself in, everyone is accountable under the law.
Let's hope so. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Until the next video, please take care of yourself and remember never to take your health for granted.
May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ and the love of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you all.